Hello, everyone, and welcome to our day two Cheltenham Festival preview, where I'm joined once again by Izzy Phillips and Katie Midwinter, as we're going to be taking a look at the three Grade 1 races on Wednesday, and also as well we'll be giving our other fancies for some of the rest of the card. So the first race we're going to look at is the Gallagher Novices Hurdle. Ballyburn is your favourite at 4 to 7 odds on. We've then got Antique next in at 5 to 1, Predators Gold at 10s, Handstand 12s, along with Reed and Tommy Wrong, and bigger are the rest. Katie, I'll come to you here first this time. Ballyburn, it's Ballyburn's only entry at the time of recording this podcast. Do we think he's going to get the job done?
Yeah, definitely. I think he's more suited to this trip, so I'm really pleased to see him go here rather than the Supreme. Soft Ground Supreme may have suited him, but he was beaten by Firefox early in the season over 2 miles. Now, probably Firefox had that fitness edge on him on that occasion, and it was worth forgiving. And you'd expect that Willie Mullins' horses would improve throughout the season as to peak for those big spring festivals. But I do think this intermediate trip is more suited to Ballyburn. I think he's a top class horse. He showed that on the last day at the DRF, beating Sladesteel by 7 lengths. I think he's got a fantastic chance. He's probably the banker of the day.
Yeah, he looks rock solid and is probably the best novice hurdler either side of the Irish Sea. So I can definitely see why you're siding with him. Ballyburn, in agreement, is he?
Obviously there was all the drama around what race he was going in, so you've got to kind of follow the fact that people were so interested. He clearly looks like he has great form. I think there's a couple in here that I'm kind of keeping an eye on, but they've got entries later in the week. So I really like the look of Gidley Park. Massive horse, and obviously it would end a dry spell at Cheltenham for Harry Fry. I know that he's come out and said he's going to try and wait as late as possible. If the rain comes, they're not going to consider a step up to 3 mile in the Albert Bartlett, so they would go for this. Obviously, there has been a little bit of rain, which makes me hope that Gidley Park would run in this, because I would rather have Gidley over 2 mile 5 than 3 mile personally. And obviously, he's got that Cheltenham course form as well. So I quite like the look of Gidley Park. And the other one he's got, whose current favourite for the Albert Bartlett, is Reed and Tommy Wrong. Obviously beat the second favourite here, Antique, by a neck at Naas last time out. So they're two I'm keeping an eye on. So I can't have a firm selection in this yet, because if either of them turn up, I'd quite like to take Ballyburn on, I think.
Yeah, I think they're definitely interesting horses. I think there's just so many horses in here, though. The ones that you probably want to side with, they're just more likely to go to the Albert Bartlett, in my opinion. Gidley Park is interesting. I'd probably go up and trip with him. And I think that's where connections are kind of heading. But yeah, he's definitely an interesting horse, got a high reputation, and I can see why you'd want to keep him on side. One horse I do like is Handstands. I was on a panel with Ollie Murphy, and he didn't like handstands at all. But I think he's been a little bit harsh there. I like the way he battled to win the Sydney Banks at Huntington when he beat Django Bay. Django Bay ran okay again, finishing second behind Personal Ambition when giving him quite a bit of weight that day. So I don't think the form's totally rubbish. And even the third place horse of Charlie Longstone's, I think that's why Ollie Murphy was concerned that he finished so close to him. But Bugsy Seagull, if you actually go back and look through his form and do a little bit more digging, there's quite a lot of nice form next to his name. So I wouldn't actually crowd that form too much, even though it was only a 4-runner race. Now he has to improve loads to get anywhere near Ballyburn. But I think if you're looking maybe within the without market or one in an each way play, if you can get 12 to 1 on the day, I do think that isn't a bad price. So for me, I'll probably play him each way. But yeah, if you want to put Ballyburn in your multis, I wouldn't put you off at all there. So yeah, I'm going to be going with Ballyburn as well.
I would just give a shout to Predators Gold at an each way price. I think he's a big price at 10 to 1. I quite fancied him from the Albert Bartlett early in the season, but at Leopardstown last time he didn't quite stay one behind Dancing City. I think it could turn out to be a decent bit of form there, and this drop-backing trip, it might just suit him.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of hype around him that day, but I don't know. I didn't think the form was that good, that race in Ireland last time out. I thought the fact that he sent off even money, people were clearly expecting him to win, and then Dancing City came along from nowhere and kind of took the scalp. I don't know.
But he beat Jatara, who'd been really well backed on that day, and I think Dancing City hadn't lived up to expectation prior to that, and maybe he was just underestimated a bit in the market.
That was a really weird race because you had Lachlan as well, who I think he opened up about 7-2, and then he drifted all the way out in the batting that day, 7-1. It was clear to see why. He just never looked happy at all that day. So yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was a little bit of a strange race, but Predator's Gold, yeah, if he can bounce back a little bit after that run and go back to his cool ball,
Especially on soft ground.
yeah,
I
he
think
would
it will suit him.
he would be interesting, and he could have maybe had the option of going in the handicap. A couple of people said, but he's got 150, so which is probably why he's running here. It's a little bit too high. So that's our thoughts then on the Gallagher's. We're now moving on to the Brown Advisory Novices Chase. Fact to File is your favourite at 5-6 odds on. We've then got Stay Away Faye at 7-2, Grey Dawn in at 5s, Monty Star 6s, Broadway Boy 10s, bigger are the rest. Izzy, Fact to File, do you think he's a little bit short considering he's not run over 3 miles before?
Yeah, I think Fact to File is one of the favourites that gets beat this week. I'm ready to take him on. Stepping up to 3 mile against some fierce opposition here. Also, 10 out of the last 12 runners have had a win over the distance. So there's a little bit of a stat there as well. Harry Cobden has been, I've been on a couple of panels and podcasts with Harry Cobden, and every single time he's been interviewed, he has said that his best chance of the week is Stay Away Faye. And it's, it's not hard to see why. In terms of obviously looking at the yard strike rate, they're on a 40% strike rate. Now, Paul Nicholls has obviously had a fairly quiet couple of years at Cheltenham, and I really do feel this could be the one to almost not bring him back with a bang because he's had winners, but to kind of solidify him back in the realm of being, hitting form just at the right time for Cheltenham. So I think I'll probably be siding with Stay Away Faye, but being a Tristan Davis Yard fan, I'm also very interested in, how bullish they've been around the chances of Broadway Boy. They're very, very confident. They are also operating at a fairly reasonable strike rate of 25% at the moment. So considering Fact to File's never run over the distance, never won over the distance, I'm finding it quite easy to side against him. So those are the two I'll probably be having a play with on the day.
Yeah, I can see why. How about you, Katie?
I think Fact to File is probably a little bit short. I probably wouldn't have a bet in the race, but I think he will win. I'm struggling to find a horse that's going to beat him. I think Stay Away Faye is a great horse on his day, but I'm not sure he'll be quite as good as Fact to File, and the vibes coming from the camp of Fact to File are all very positive that he's going to be a Gold Cup horse in the future. The one that probably interests me each way is American Mike. He's a big price at 14-1, considering he's been supplemented for this race. I was at Navan when he won last time, and I thought he was really impressive. It was a bit of a slog on that occasion. Heavy ground at Navan usually is. It's tough work. But I just did think that maybe if the ground was on the softer side, he could be one to run into those places. But I think Fact to File will deal with this step up in trip and win. Be too good for the others.
Okay, I'm kind of leaning more towards Izzy here. I think he's way too short. I think people getting carried away. I mean, when he beat Gaelic Warrior and he was kind of handed the race last time out at the Dublin Racing Festival, like, I think people were crabbing him or they were saying, oh, you can't measure that form up. And then in the last couple of weeks, people have done a massive U-turn and saying it's like the best race ever. I mean, I just feel like the hype around this horse is, especially in the preview circuit the last couple of weeks, is a little bit too much considering the fact that, yes, he didn't start life over fences amazingly, but then, yes, he has kind of improved, but he only beat Gaelic Warrior last time out, who just never was out of the races that day, jumping out to the right, and I think he could have even ridden a probably 130 horse round there, and they still would have got the job done. So, yes, he couldn't have done anything wrong, but at the same time, I do think 5-6 after that performance and him running here, I do think that's far too short. I think the likes of Stay Away Faye, obviously, he might not have a sexy profile, getting beaten last time out in the Cotswolds Chase, but I think if Fact and File had run that in that race, I don't think he would have fared much better than Stay Away Faye did. I mean, I think running over fences for the third time in your life against those kind of horses after just 2 wins. I think that was actually a bold run, and he had to give away that day to Capodanno. He wasn't getting any like novice allowance or anything. So I think people shouldn't crab the form so much. I do think Stay Away Faye has got a good chance, and I know people saying, "Oh, he might be a little bit of a boat in that," but at least we know he stays. He likes the course as well. Albert Bartlett horses do have a good record in this race. I think it's like 7 or 8 horses in the last 10 years that had previously been raced in the Albert Bartlett came out and won this race. So it is a well-trodden path. Obviously, Factophile, bit of a unique profile coming from bumpers straight into this. He's been highlighted as taking the Florida Pearl route, so it would take some doing to win this. But for me, I think Stay Away Faye. I don't think there should be too much between them in the betting. And if I was having to give a selection, Stay Away Faye for me at 72. I think that's a little bit too big. I should have him more around about the 5-2 kind of mark, 9-4 kind of mark. I think he has a little bit of value there. So that's my thoughts anyway on the Brown Advisory. We're now going to move on to the feature race on day 2. It's the Betway Queen Mother Champion Chase, Grade 1, over 2 miles. El Fabiolo is your favourite at 4-9. You've then got John Bon at 130, Edwardstone next in the bet at 7s, Captain Guinness at 16-1. Bigger are the rest. Katie, El Fabiolo, he just keeps winning, doesn't he? But one day you do think maybe there could be a mistake with him, because he just always seems to get away with the odd jumping error. But at the moment, he's doing nothing wrong and probably should take all the beating, shouldn't he?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the only concern with him, is he isn't the most fluent and most effective jumper of a fence. But he's very good over his fences still, in a sense that when he has looked to make a mistake that looks like a race-ending mistake, he's been able to recover. Now, maybe one day he won't be able to recover and it will become a race-ending mistake. But I just think he's quite good at knowing where he puts his feet when he lands, and he hasn't yet made a juddering error that has really affected the result of any of his races. I think he's just going to be too good for the rest of the field here. If there was a horse in here, say a couple of years ago, you had the likes of Shishkin maybe taking him on, then I'd probably make a case elsewhere. But I don't think John Bon is going to reverse that form, and I don't think any of the others are good enough to get near him. So the only horse that's going to get him beaten is himself, I think. But so far he's been quite professional, and I don't think he's going to be beaten.
Okay. Kate staying loyal with the Irish El Fabiolo. How about you, Izzy?
I mean, I largely agree. I really love John Bon. And I'd almost love to see him come back and really buy into the comeback and, you know, go lumping on and just thinking, yeah, no, he'll just get the better of him this time. But obviously, you've got issues with the Henderson Yard form, whether it's colds or withdrawn on veterinary advice, and that does give me a concern. And I don't want to go lumping in on John Bon, you know, especially against a horse like El Fabiolo with those sorts of niggles. One that is interesting, an old flame, is Edwardstone. You know, I love Edwardstone, and I've been on him every single time he's won. And it seemed that last time out, they almost got his mojo back by just riding him really prominently. And I would say that they're going to definitely try and do that again. But you've got to think that Paul Townend on El Fabiolo is going to know that and be very much not letting Edwardstone get away. So like Katie said, bar him throwing the race away, it's hard to see a reality where El Fabiolo doesn't win.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird race, this one, I think, because on form, he's clearly the one they've all got to beat. But we do get the odd upset in this race over the years. I think, like, when Shishkin, obviously, he had issues. I think the year as well, when it was like going to be like Defi DeSoy and that, he was a short price favourite. And then when you got Politolog coming out and win. So, yeah. I don't know, sometimes this Duvan as well, he was really short.
Dodging bullets that year, I don't think he wasn't favourite to win it, was he?
It's kind of a weird race that we always think that, there's always one in here that they've got the form, and then it suddenly becomes the race turns its head upside down. I was just looking at some of the previous winners in this race, because I do feel like the likes of Edwardstone, isn't completely out of it if they do ride him prominently like they did last time out. Because if you look at some of the winners of this race over, like, say, the last 10 years, for example, like the Sprinter Sacra, Special Tiara, they were both 10-year-olds. So if there is a division where, like, older horses can do it, it's probably this division. Even the likes of Politolog and Energamine, like last year, they were both 9-year-olds. So you can get horses that maybe they just run up to a solid rating, and sometimes it's good enough to get the job done. And El Fabiolo, clearly, like I say, he is the form pick, but I mean, in these kind of races, it only takes one little mistake and they can be paid. And I think at 4 to 9, yes, he's clearly got the form. Would I want to stink him in an ACCA? Probably not. I mean, I think on their day, you know, like the likes of John Bond, Edward Stone, if they run a solid race, it might be good enough for them to win. If El Fabiolo does come out and get a little bit stuck, I wouldn't even write off the Elixir the Nuts winning this. I know he beat John Bond last time out, but he's been improving. He is a horse that this year has just seemed to have found a new lease of life. He won the Howden Gold Cup. He beat Master Chewy, giving him weight, who went on to win at Kempton. Yes, things went his way last time out with John Bond underperforming. But like I said, like some of these big names, they do underperform in this race. And I think it's not always a black and white picture that sometimes these horses have got a load of one next to their names and they're trained by the fancy connections, always get the job done. So for me, I'm happy to take on El Fabiolo at 4 to 9. I don't think all these favourites are going to win, and he's one horse that I think there are a couple of opponents in here that if they're on their A game, they're definitely going to give him something to think about, and at the prices as well. I'll be willing to take him on. So for me, that's my thoughts on the Champion Chase. Katie's absolutely loving this one, me digging into the Irish. She always says that I'm too biased towards the British, but I do think sometimes the more you side with the British, occasionally you're going to get it right. And then if you count your profit and loss at the end of the week, you're probably going to come out on top because you found the British price horse at a big price and not backing all the Irish shorties all the time. So I do think that sometimes you've got to look at it that way instead of just going with all the favourites.
What are you going to win on El Fabiolo?
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? It's not a race. Like if you're a punter that's not going in with thousands, which I know we don't, it's not a race where you're going to be getting involved. So you are looking for the other angles because you're not winning anything backing horses at 1 to 12 on. Like I don't need to lay down £12 to win a pound. What's that doing for me? So, you are right in that sense. And obviously more recently that has become let's look against the Irish because the Irish have so many well fancied horses. So, I mean, I wish that wasn't the case though. It is a shame that there aren't more grade 1 and 2 horses in Britain, and something needs to be done about that.
Yeah, it does. But like I say, I totally agree with you. Because if you want to put like El Fabiolo and the likes of that multis to try and boost up your winnings as well as a punter, you're always going to get one normally that gets you undone. And it's normally the one you think is the most solid. There's the one that lets you down, and the one you thought, probably I'm not so keen about. I'll put them in just to make them up. They're the ones that do the job for you. So yeah, I think it's normally a one-way ticket to the poorhouse if you're doing that. But yeah, that's the way I'm thinking. But yeah, El Fabiolo, if he turns up, runs his normal solid race, he's going to probably be too hard to beat. But would I be surprised if he got beaten? No, I wouldn't. So anyway, that's our thoughts then on day 2 for the main grade 1s. Is there anything else, Katie? I'll come to you here first. Is there anything else in any of the handicaps or champion bumper even that caught your eye?
Yeah, I like a few in the champion bumper. You Ought to Know is probably the shortest price one that I like. He has that win over Croke Park, beaten by 11 lengths on debut before he won at the Galway Festival. Finished second in Leopardstown Grade 2 as well. I think he's a really good horse, and I think he's a bit overpriced here. And there's another few that I like as well. Argento Boy is one at a big price for Willie Mullins. He made a good start to life in bumpers under Jodie Townend. He was asked plenty of questions on that day. He's a big, imposing type. I think he will have learned a lot from his first run, and I think he can improve. I'll also mention Tripoli Flyer, who won that Lingfield bumper, beating Kingston Pride. He won that at about 12 to 1, I think he was. I really like his profile. I think he's a half-brother to Any Harm in Asking, who, of course, beat Constitution Hill in a point-to-point. And I'll give a chance to Sesta Chance as well, who didn't win his bumper. He finished second to a Barry Connell horse who's gone on and won since. think it could turn out to be nice for him, and he's run at a big price that I think could run well for Willie Mullins.
Okay, that's Kate's thoughts on Champion Bumper. Anything else from you, Izzy, to add?
Just the one for me. I really like the look of Galvin in the cross country. I know he was obviously second in the race last year against Delta Work. He is my fancy for the Grand National. I know that since then, since his last run, he was running on quite nicely over 2 mile 5. I think it was at Navan or Naas. And since then, at the Grand National weights, Gordon Elliott has said that he really fancies him. So the price has shortened quite a lot now. So, yeah, Galvin in the cross country to be Tiger Roll Part 2.
Okay. Another Elliott clash then in the cross country. Katie,
I quite fancy Delta Work to make it a 3-timer. I'm quite strong on his chances, but I think Galvin, the more it dries out, the more chance he is going to have. I'll also give a quick mention to Gigaro in the Coral Cup and Curry de Bourbon too. I think they could run big races at big price.
Okay, I'll just mention a couple. One's in the Champion Bumper. I was really taken with him when he won back in January at Naas. That's Jasmine DeVoe. I mean, he was well backed straight in towards the top of the market at Champion Bumper after he won at Naas. And I've not heard anyone talk about him since he won that day. Not been mentioned in any previews I've heard. Not really been mentioned in any stable tours of Willie's. He seems to have gone under the radar, but he's still holding his own at the top of the betting. I mean, I think he had a bit of X factor about him that day when he won at Naas. And even his point-to-point form, he beat a horse called Largy Poet that's now trained by Paul Nicholls. Now, obviously, Largy Poet isn't a top grade 1 horse or anything like that, but he's been putting some nice performances together for Paul Nicholls in England this summer, and he was favourite for a hot handicap at Kempton a couple of weeks ago, but he was taken out because of the going that day. But I do think that Jasmine DeVoe is a horse that I was really taken with him that day, and I want to kind of see the hype build around him, because I do feel like he's probably one of Willie Mullins' stronger horses. And then in the Grand Annual, Harper's Brook, there's been a bit of a talking horse on the preview circuit, but I really do like the angle that they're dropping him back down to 2 miles here. I backed him last time, put him up when he won at Sandown. He is a little bit of a head case because he always tends to pull himself up before the line, but he just reminds me a little bit of Global Citizen. And I think if you go back for his family or something, he is actually related to him. I think I did see someone say or something. So, he would be interesting. And Ben Paul, of course, won this race with Global Citizen a few years ago. So, off a mark of 140, I think there could be a bit more to come from him. So, he's a horse that I'll be probably keeping on side on the day. So, that's our thoughts then on day 2. We'll be back again soon for day 3.